October 23, 1942. The Qattara Depression, Egypt. Heat. It is not just a temperature here. It is a physical weight. It presses down on your helmet. It seeps through the soles of your boots. It vibrates the air until the horizon looks like liquid mercury. 10. Ruo AM. The thermometer inside Corporal James Sterling's Crusader tank reads 115 degrees, 46 degrees, and the engine isn't even running. If you are Sterling sitting in that steel coffin, you don't move, you don't speak, you barely breathe, because movement creates sweat, and you have already finished your water ration for the morning. The flies are the only things with energy. Thousands of them, black, sticky, relentless. They crawl into the corners of your eyes to drink the moisture. They buzz in your ears. You want to swat them, but you don't. You are too tired. But the flies are not the reason you are afraid. 10:14 a.m. Engine noise. The shout comes from the lookout. It cuts through the heat haze like a knife. Sterling forces himself up through the hatch. He squints against the blinding white sun. The sky is a perfect, cruel blue. No clouds, no cover. Just an infinite, flat table of beige sand stretching to the end of the world. And there it is, a black speck, high, maybe 20,000 feet, a Junkers Ju 88, German reconnaissance, the Eye of God. Sterling feels his stomach tighten. This is the terror of the desert war. It isn't the chaotic noise of the jungle or the claustrophobia of a submarine. It is the feeling of being naked. There is nowhere to hide. Not a tree, not a rock, not a valley. If you park a tank in the desert, it casts a shadow. That shadow is black ink on yellow paper, the fatal geometry. Up in that plane, a German observer is adjusting a Zeiss camera lens. He isn't looking for Sterling specifically. He is looking for patterns. He snaps a photo, click, 1 second of exposure. That photo will be developed in a lab behind enemy lines within an hour. It will be placed on a table in front of General Erwin Rommel. The desert fox knows how to read shadows. He will count the tanks. He will calculate the fuel supply trucks. He will measure the tire tracks to determine the direction of travel. Sterling looks at his own tank, 30 tons of steel, sitting in the open. It might as well be painted neon red. "Get down," the sergeant hisses. "Don't look up. Don't give them a face to aim at." Sterling drops back inside the turret. The smell of oil, cordite, and unwashed men hits him again. He imagines the photo being taken right now. He imagines Rommel's finger pointing at this exact spot on a map. Then comes the math. Once they know where you are, they don't send infantry. They send Stukas, or artillery, or the 80-meter flak guns that can punch a hole through a Crusader from 2 miles away. The drone of the German engine fades. The plane is gone, but the damage is done. The photo exists. Sterling wipes a mixture of grease and sweat from his forehead. He looks at his gunner. "Do you think he saw us?" The gunner doesn't answer. He just stares at the metal wall. They both know the answer. In this desert, everyone sees everything, unless the British Army can figure out a way to break the laws of physics, unless they can make 30 tons of steel disappear into thin air, or worse, make it appear where it isn't. But magic doesn't happen in war. Or so Sterling thinks. September 1942. British HQ, Cairo. To understand why they needed a magic trick, you have to smell the ashes. 3 months ago, on Ash Wednesday, the British command in Cairo panicked. Rommel was so close that officers started burning secret documents. The smoke hung over the city for days. Black snow falling on the Nile. That is how close Britain is to losing the war. The strategic nightmare. General Bernard Law Montgomery stands in his office. He is a small man with icy blue eyes and a reputation for being impossible. He looks at the map of El Alamein. It is a chessboard of death. To the north, the Mediterranean Sea. To the south, the Qattara Depression, a sinkhole of salt and quicksand that no tank can cross. In between, a narrow strip of hard desert, barely 40 miles wide. Rommel is dug in. He has laid 500 engine mines, the Devil's Gardens. He has the deadly 80-meter anti-tank guns positioned to kill anything that moves. The numbers of despair. Montgomery knows the statistics of the summer. They aren't just numbers. They are a graveyard. Tobruk fell in June 33. 00 men surrendered in a single morning. Let's look at two of them. Private Arthur Green, 22 years old, from Essex. He ran out of ammunition at 09:00 a.m. He surrendered at 09:15. He is currently rotting in a POW camp in Italy, weighing 110 pounds, dreaming of bread. Captain David Ross, 26. He commanded a Grant tank. When the retreat was ordered, his engines stalled. He didn't surrender. His fiancée in Manchester received the telegram 3 weeks ago. Missing in action. She doesn't know he burned alive inside his hull. Montgomery reads the reports. Morale is shattered. The men call it the Gazala Gallop, running away from Rommel. They believe the German general is invincible, a ghost, a monster, the impossible order. Montgomery turns to his chief of staff, Freddie de Guingand. "We must attack," Monty says. His voice is clipped, precise. "If we sit here, Rommel gets more fuel. If he gets fuel, he takes Cairo. If he takes Cairo, he takes the Suez. If he takes the Suez, we lose the Middle East oil." "We know, General." "The attack must be in the north," Monty continues. "We have to punch through his strongest defense." De Guingand hesitates. "Sir, if we mass our tanks in the north, Rommel will see them. The terrain is flat. His reconnaissance is perfect. He will move his panzers to meet us. It will be a slaughter." Montgomery nods. "Correct. That is why he must not see them." "Sir, I want to move an entire armored corps, 600 tanks and guns, from the rear to the front line in the north, and I want Rommel to believe they are actually gathering in the south, 30 miles away." De Guingand stares at the general. "It is a request that defies logic. Moving 600 tanks creates dust, tracks, radio traffic, noise. You cannot hide an elephant in a parking lot. Monty wants to hide a herd of them." "We need a deception plan, sir." "But not a plan," Monty interrupts. "An illusion. I want Rommel to look at the north and see nothing. I want him to look at the south and see an army that isn't there. I want him to hold his reserves in the wrong place for 48 hours. Who can do that, sir? The engineers." Montgomery turns back to the window. "No, engineers build bridges. We need liars. Get me the camouflage unit. Get me Barkas." It was the moment the war stopped being about ballistics and started being about psychology. They didn't need soldiers. They needed the greatest set designers in the world. September 20th, 1942, Camouflage Development and Training Center, CDTC. Hell 1. War usually demands engineers who build bridges or artillerists who calculate trajectories. Operation Bertram demanded something else. It demanded a film director and a landscape painter. The casting, Lieutenant Colonel Geoffrey Barkas. Before the war, he directed films at Shepperton Studios. He knew that a movie set is just plywood and lighting. He knew that the audience wants to be deceived. They want the story to be true. Rommel was the audience. Barkas was the director. Major Tony Ayrton, a quiet, obsessive artist. While other officers looked at the desert and saw tactical maps, Ayrton saw color, shadow, and perspective. He knew that at 5,000 feet, a tank is just a rectangular shadow. Change the shadow, change the object. The workshop of lies. They stand in a dusty tent filled with sketches. Barkas holds up a piece of Hessian cloth. "The general doesn't want us to hide the army," Barkas says. "He wants us to move it. The problem is physics. A Sherman tank is 30 tons of steel. It has a distinct turret. It screams threat. A 3-ton lorry is a soft-skinned supply truck. It says logistics. If Rommel sees tanks, he bombs them. If he sees trucks, he ignores them." The invention, the sun shield. Ayrton presents the blueprint. It looks ridiculous on paper. A lightweight canopy made of canvas stretched over a wooden frame. It sits on top of the tank like a tea cozy. But it's not just a cover, it is sculpture. The frame is shaped exactly like the canopy of a supply truck. When you place it over a Matilda or Sherman tank, the aggressive profile disappears. The gun barrel is hidden under a fake driver's cab. The tracks are covered by fake wheels painted on canvas. From the ground it looks like a bad tent. But from the air, from the God's eye view of the Luftwaffe, it casts the shadow of a harmless truck, the inverse, the cannibal. But that's only half the trick, Ayrton argues. If we turn the tanks in the north into trucks, the north looks empty. Rommel will know something is wrong. An empty front line is suspicious. So they invent the cannibal, a real truck that carries a fake tank shell. Gert drives to the south, the fake front. It drops the shell, it drives away, it leaves behind a tank. But not just a balloon. Balloons deflate, balloons wobble in the wind. These are rigid structures, Hessian cloth soaked in concrete and glue. They have hard edges. They cast hard shadows. The pitch. They present the plan to the 8th Army staff. It sounds insane. "How you want to face the Afrika Korps with canvas and glue?" a colonel asks. Barkas lights a cigarette. He is used to nervous producers. "Sir, Rommel counts tanks. We are going to give him the wrong number. We are going to put 600 fake tanks in the south to hold his panzers there. And we are going to drive 600 real tanks into the north, disguised as trucks, right under his nose." The green light. The command is given, but there is a catch. The offensive starts in late October. They have 28 days. They don't need to just build a few props. They need to build 2 000 vehicles. They need to construct an entire phantom army from scratch. Barkas looks at Ayrton. "We're going to need a bigger studio." October 5th, 1942, Wadi Natron. The factory. If you think art is delicate, you haven't seen the factory at Wadi Natron. It is an industrial slaughterhouse of materials. Dozens of tents stretch across the sand. Inside, the heat is trapped. 120 degrees Celsius, 49 degrees Celsius. The air is thick with the smell of wet paint, curing glue and unwashed bodies. The sound is a constant deafening rhythm of hammers and sewing machines. The labor, Corporal Chalky, white, 24, from Leeds. He is a pioneer, a builder. He joined the army to fight. Instead, he is sewing. His hands are blistered from handling the rough Hessian cloth. His uniform is stiff with bitumen emulsion, a mix of oil residue and sand used to paint the fake vehicles. "It's a bloody pantomime," Chalky mutters to the man next to him. He stitches a fake wheel onto a canvas side panel. "My brother is in a Spitfire over Malta, and I'm making a dollhouse." He doesn't understand. He can't see the big picture. He doesn't know that the dollhouse he is building will save more lives than 1,000 Spitfires. The scale of the lie. The numbers are staggering. The factory churns out 722 dummy tanks, 360 dummy guns, 2 000 sun shields for the real tanks. But objects aren't enough. Barkas knows that Rommel isn't stupid. If a German pilot sees 700 tanks sitting perfectly still for 3 days, he knows they are fake. Real armies are messy. Real armies leave trash. Real armies shit. The performance. So Barkas orders the Royal Army Service Corps, RASC, to act. This is the strangest order of the war. A battalion of drivers is sent to the south, where the fake tanks are parked. Their job is not to fight. Their job is to live. Every morning at 06:00, they start truck engines to create exhaust smoke. Why? Because real tanks warm up their engines. They drive vehicles in circles to create fresh track marks in the sand. If the tracks are old and windblown, the pilot knows the vehicle hasn't moved. They dig latrines, they hang washing lines between the fake guns. They scatter empty oil cans and ration boxes around the dummies. The trash. Barkas obsesses over the trash. "More rubbish," he orders. "A clean army is a fake army." Chalky White is sent out with a truck full of empty tins. He scatters them around a regiment of dummy Grant tanks. He feels ridiculous. He is littering the desert to fool a man in the sky. October 20th, 1942, the transformation. The deadline arrives. In the north, the real 8th Army begins to move. Massive Sherman tanks roar into position under the cover of darkness. The crews jump out. They are sweating, cursing. They unfold the sun shields designed by Ayrton. Click, clack, snap. The canvas covers lock into place. The 75mm gun barrel is hidden. The tank tracks are shadowed. By sunrise, the staging area looks like a logistics depot, just hundreds of boring soft trucks carrying bully beef and blankets. A German reconnaissance plane flies over at 08:00. The pilot looks down. He sees trucks. He sees trash. He sees nothing to worry about. Down below, inside a truck, a tank commander loads an armor-piercing shell into the breech. He waits. The stage is set. The audience is seated. Now the curtain must rise with fire. October 23rd, 1942, the northern sector. 30 hours. The sun sets. The desert turns from blinding white to bruised purple, then to absolute black. This is the moment the magic trick must survive reality. The martello move. If you are standing near the front line, you hear a low rumble. It sounds like thunder trapped under the sand. It is the sound of 600 tanks moving at crawling speed. This is the final swap. For weeks, the trucks parked here were fake, just empty shells. Now, under the cover of a moonless night, the real Sherman and Grant tanks are creeping forward. They drive into the positions of the dummies. The crews work in frantic silence. They strip away the dummy structures. They position the 30-ton killing machines. Then they pull the sun shields over them. 55 hours. Lieutenant James "Mac" McAllister shuts off the engine of his Sherman. The silence that follows is heavy. He climbs out. He helps his crew pull the canvas frame over the turret. Within 3 minutes, the tank disappears. To any German observer looking through night vision optics or watching for silhouettes against the stars, nothing has changed. Just a supply truck, parked where it has been for a week. McAllister sits on the cold sand beside the track. He lights a cigarette, cupping the flame deep inside his jacket. He looks at his watch. 2 hours to go. The German perspective. 5 miles away, across the minefields, General Georg Stummer, replacing Rommel, who is on sick leave in Germany, is confident. His intelligence reports are clear. British tank concentration in the south. Massive pipeline construction observed in the south. Radio traffic heavy in the south. The north? The north is quiet. Just logistics, trucks, nothing to worry about. The German tank crews are asleep. Some are playing cards. They have no idea that 600 gun barrels are currently pointed at their tents, hidden under canvas hoods. 30 hours. The moon is full now. The desert is a silver graveyard. McAllister climbs back into his tank. Load he. High explosive, he whispers. The loader slams the shell into the breech. Clang. The sound echoes inside the hull. Wait for the signal. 40 hours. Operation Lightfoot. It doesn't start with a tank, it starts with the artillery. 882 guns, lined up wheel to wheel across the horizon. At the exact second, the order is given. Fire. The sky ceases to exist. It is replaced by a wall of white fire. The shockwave is so powerful, it shakes the dust off the canvas sunshields. The ground liquefies. For the Germans, it is the apocalypse. They wake up to the earth exploding. They run to their panzers, eyes wide, ears bleeding. Where is it coming from? They look north, but they only see trucks. Then the trucks throw off their covers. The canvas falls away. The steel emerge. And the 8th Army begins the charge. The chaos. McAllister kicks the driver in the shoulder. Forward! The Sherman lurches. They hit the first minefield. The Devil's Garden. This is where the magic ends and the butchery begins. A flail tank ahead of them hits a mine. Boom! A pillar of fire. A scream on the radio. But they keep moving. The Germans are confused, paralyzed. They are looking south for an attack that isn't coming. By the time they turn their turrets north, the British are already in the wire. Barkas, the director, stands on a ridge miles behind the line. He watches the flashes on the horizon. He doesn't cheer. He knows that every flash is a man dying. But he also knows the Germans are in the wrong place. The trick worked. October 24th, 1942, the southern sector, 30 miles from the battle. We focus on the victory in the north, but the Agenda II demands we look at the south, because deception isn't free. For the lie to work, someone has to sell it with their life. Operation Brian. While the tanks attacked in the north, a small group of Royal Engineers, sappers, was working in the south. Their job, build a fake water pipeline and a fake supply road, the Diamond Track. To convince Rommel the main attack was coming here later, the construction had to look real. It had to progress 5 miles every night. It had to look urgent. The men on the stage. Meet Sapper Thomas Miller, 20. From Glasgow. He is not fighting. He is digging a ditch. He is laying pipes made of old petrol cans welded together. They carry nothing but air. He is building supply dumps that are just empty boxes covered in nets. It seems safe. It is not. The trap. For the deception to be perfect, the Germans must see them. Barkas ordered them to be careless. Let them see the dust, he said. Let them see the trucks. If the Germans see you, they shoot at you. 14:00 hours. A flight of Stuka dive bombers spots the construction. To the German pilot, this looks like the main British supply artery. A juicy target. He rolls his plane into a dive. The siren screams. Miller jumps into the trench he just dug. It's a fake trench for a fake pipe. But the bomb is real. Whump. The explosion throws sand and shrapnel 500 feet into the air. The dummy pipeline is shattered. But so is Miller's squad. The aftermath. Dust settles. Miller crawls out. His ears are ringing. He looks at his friend, Sapper Evans. Evans is gone. Just a red mist on the white sand. 3 others are screaming, holding limbs that are no longer attached. An officer runs up. "Get up! Get up! We need a medic!" Miller screams. "We need to fix the pipe!" The officer yells back. "The reconnaissance plane will be back in an hour. If the pipe looks broken, they'll know it's fake. Fix it." The brutal logic. This is the cost. Miller has to crawl through the blood of his friend to repair a pipe that carries nothing. He has to stack empty boxes to make a target for the next bomb. They are human bait. Every bomb that drops on Miller in the south is a bomb that didn't drop on a real tank in the north. Every Stuka that attacks the fake pipeline is a Stuka that isn't killing McAllister's crew. The statistic. We don't have an exact count of how many died building the fake army. They are listed simply as killed in action. But in the southern sector alone, the casualty rate for the deception units was higher than some infantry units. The irony. Imagine dying for a prop. Imagine your mother getting a telegram. Your son died heroically. She imagines him charging a machine gun nest. She doesn't know he was blown apart while arranging empty cardboard boxes to look like ammunition. Does it matter? Dead is dead. But there is a special kind of coldness in ordering men to be targets. Barkas knew it. Montgomery knew it. They spent lives in the south to save thousands in the north. It was good math. It was terrible humanity. Miller survives the day. He repairs the pipe. The German plane comes back, takes a photo. The German intelligence reports, British supply line in south repaired immediately. Attack imminent. Because of Miller's work, the 21st Panzer Division stays in the south. They wait for an attack that never comes. Meanwhile, in the north, the British break the line. Miller sits in the sand, shaking. He looks at the fake pipe. "You better be worth it," he whispers. "You better be bloody worth it." November 2nd, 1942, German command post, northern sector. General Erwin Rommel is back. He rushed from his hospital bed in Germany, flying through a storm to save his army. But when he looks at the map, he realizes he is fighting 2 enemies, Montgomery and a ghost, the fatal delay. For 48 hours, the elite 21st Panzer Division sat in the south. They waited behind their guns, eyes scanning the horizon for the British attack that the pipeline promised. They saw dust, they saw trucks, they saw shadows. But no attack came. Meanwhile, in the north, the British hammered the line. Operation Supercharge. Shermans, Grants, Crusaders, the real ones, smashed into the German infantry. The moment of truth. Rommel stands in his command vehicle. Dust coats his goggles. He gets the report from the south. No contact. The British forces seem to be stationary. He grabs the binoculars. He looks at the map. The realization hits him not like a bullet, but like a disease. The pipeline was fake. The radio traffic was fake. The army in the south didn't exist. "Move them," he whispers. Then he screams. "Move the 21st North. Now!" The race against physics. But tanks don't teleport. The 21st Panzer Division has to drive 30 miles north, across soft sand, under air attack, and most importantly, burning fuel. Rommel has a fuel crisis. He has enough for a battle, but not for a maneuver. Every mile the Panzers drive to fix the mistake is a mile they aren't fighting. The slaughter. By the time the German tanks arrive in the north, it is too late. They are low on petrol. Their engines are overheating, and the British are waiting for them. Hull down positions, anti-tank guns ready. The Battle of El Alamein turns into a shooting gallery. The German tanks, exhausted from chasing a phantom, are picked off one by one. Burning steel litters the desert floor. The collapse. November 4th. The line breaks. Rommel orders the retreat. The invincible Afrika Korps is running, not a tactical withdrawal. A rout. Barkas, the director, hears the news in his tent. He doesn't smile. He walks over to a map of the south. He picks up a pin representing the Southern Army. He tosses it into the trash. "Wrap it up," he tells his team. The show is over. But the show left scars. In the confusion of the retreat, German soldiers reported being surrounded by British tanks that refused to fire. They surrendered to canvas. They threw down their rifles in front of plywood. The illusion was so strong that even when the battle was lost, the fear remained. December 1942. The abandoned desert. The war has moved west. The noise of artillery is gone. The screaming engines are gone. The desert is silent again, but the ghost army remains, the decay. If you walked through the southern sector a month later, you would see a surrealist nightmare. The wind, the Khamsin, is the only enemy left. It strips the Hessian cloth from the wooden frames. A tank lies on its side, revealing its skeleton of palm fronds and lattice wood. A field gun has collapsed, looking like a broken kite. The pipeline that Sapper Miller risked his life to fix is half buried in drifting sand. It looks like the bones of a prehistoric beast. The discovery. Bedouin nomads wander through the wreckage. They don't see weapons. They see firewood. They dismantle the fake artillery to cook their tea. They take the canvas armor to patch their tents. The army that defeated Rommel is being recycled into warmth for a desert night. The fate of the magicians. Geoffrey Barkas went back to the film industry after the war. He received the OBE, Order of the British Empire. But he never made a movie as big as El Alamein. How could he? In Hollywood you use 1,000 extras. In Egypt he used 1,000 shadows. Tony Ayrton, the painter, didn't get to see the end of the war. He fell ill in 1943, an infection. He died in a hospital bed, far from the canvas tanks he designed. He is one of the forgotten architects of victory, the meaning. Why does this story matter? We like to think war is about who has the biggest gun. We measure victory in caliber and horsepower. But Operation Bertram proved that the mind is the softest target. Rommel wasn't defeated by steel. He was defeated by confirmation bias. He saw what he expected to see. The final image. Imagine Sapper Miller, the survivor from Part 6, years later. He is an old man in Glasgow. He watches a documentary about El Alamein. The narrator talks about Montgomery's genius and the bravery of the tank crews. Miller turns off the TV. He remembers the smell of wet paint in the heat. He remembers the sound of the Stuka diving on a fake pipe. He remembers the blood of his friend on the white sand. He looks at his hands. Rough, scarred. Hands that built a lie to save the world. In the end, the fake tanks rotted away. The wind took them. But the men who lived because of them, they went home. They had children. They built lives. That is the only truth that matters. The lie evaporated. The life remained.